Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Compelling Conversations podcast. Today, I'm joined by an amazing young man, Anas. Anas, thanks so much for being here, man.
Thank you for having me, actually. I've been waiting. We've been facing some unforeseen circumstances.
Yes, this episode, the way I'm thinking about it, it's like Halim. You know how the best Halim takes like a long time to mix in the pot? This is that. It took us a while, but now we're here. I'm excited, so I really appreciate you being here, man.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, always is. What I wanted to begin with on us was something I was reflecting on. It was something you told me once, which is sometimes when something happens to you, it happens because you're ready for the next stage. So something bad might happen to you, for example, a catastrophe, God forbid. But it just means that now you're ready to move on. Do you remember saying that to me? And if
I,
you do, could you elaborate on what that means to you?
yeah, I can actually. So I think this was the day I was leaving campus, and we happened to pass by each other, and I saw you. I said "Salaam alaikum," and you just posed the questions like, "Hey, so how do you know when you're ready to move on from something?" And I told you exactly what you just said. Is like it doesn't necessarily have to be a good thing, but it can also be a bad thing, a calamity of some sort that could show you a path back to something you're in desire of. So the reference I gave or example I gave was death. That was because we were talking about health and our degrees at the time. So I basically posed the situation where if you lose someone who you love, a loved one, they pass away, and in that moment, you're feeling grief and remorse. But then you realize that there's so much that you can do. Like, this is a sign that, like, death going forward from past this, it's not the end, right? For us, we're still living. And the person we've lost, right? I guess to live in their memory, there are things that we can go on to accomplish, you know? So,
I like that thing you said right there. Live in their memory. What does that
right.
mean to you?
Well, for me, I mean, I've grown up around a lot of older people in my house, in my family. Um, Not necessarily like in my house, but like in the extended family and stuff. And I had a pretty decent and healthy relationship with them. And I would hear them always talk about like, Anis, go on to do something great. Go on to do this. Like these are aspirations that you should probably look into. And I mean, when I was younger, I was like, okay, maybe I'll look at it one day. And then, the unforeseen happens and someone passes away. And for me, it was my granddad, my cousin's grandfather. He was here a few years ago, and he went back. We spent 2 weeks together actually in my own house, and we would always wake up early morning, and I would always come down trying to race him to like eat sahur or like wake up and eat breakfast, and he's always downstairs watching the CNN business news, and I would always ask him like, "Why are you watching this?" And I was like, what, probably 14, 12, something like that, young, very young. And he would always tell me, it's like, this is something that piques my interest because I'm a businessman. And I was like, okay, what is that? So that was my first, I guess, aha moment with him, where it was like, okay, this is something I can go on to do in my life, like a motivation, something an avenue in life I could take. So I was young. I didn't really know much about it. But then a few years down the line, he passed away. Um, and I won't forget, I felt very, very sad. Like I missed him. I didn't really get to see him a lot in my life. And I cherished those small moments in time I had with him. And, after a few days of grieving and, condolences, and I opened a book and I was just reading, and it was saying, so it said the same things like, find your avenue. That's the literal 3 words, find your avenue. And I remember I was like, oh my God, this is literally what my granddad told me. I was like, all right. So like I went back to that, like jump back in time, and I thought about it. I was like, okay, so this is what it means to like find your avenue, live in that memory of the person that you love the most. or love have a love for. So that's kind of what like pushed the idea of living for your loved ones or living in memory of them. So those moments that you cherish and have a special connection with, it's like you're taking that paused moment, right? And you're continuing it. Yes, on your own, but you're continuing it. It's as if
Yeah,
like with you in a way.
I really like that. Thanks for sharing that. Especially that thing about the find your avenue, as in that is the piece, right? That is how you live in their memory, is you find your own avenue. Yeah,
The beauty of finding your own avenue is it's not going to be your projected endpoint. You're always going to be, it's always evolving, it's always changing. Like one day I'm like, oh, I'm gonna be a businessman, like for this situation that I was just in, right? And now I'm like, now I'm on a path of doing business and pre-dental for like, so it's always changing. It's unique to everybody, and that's kind of what builds the character, the personality of someone, if you will, because it's the aspirations, the pain, the heartbreak, the experiences, all of that builds and constructs a person. And the beauty of it is, like I said, it's always changing. So a person will never always be the same as he was yesterday. He'll be different today, and tomorrow he'll be someone else. But the
yeah,
same morals and values will stay the same. So like what I mean is like the experiences and stuff, they're always changing and bringing something new to you. It's like an addition to your personality and character.
yeah. And speaking of that, of those things that change you, what do you think has changed you the most? And I know it's a very broad question, but I'm curious, what is that piece that makes us honest?
I'd say there's two things. Number one, it would be for me the value of kindness, like
Hmm.
compassion, love.
That's an
Alhamdulillah.
important thing.
Yeah, Alhamdulillah, my name is Anas. It means basically friendly and compassionate. It kind of embodies those three words: loving, compassionate, and kindness.
And you
And
live it, eh?
I try my best. I try my best.
Yeah.
For that specific point, I read Islamic history. So there was a Sahaba at the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. His name was Anas ibn Malik, and his story, I'll give it in brief. He spent 10 years in the servitude of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and what he did was simply show the utmost kindness, respect, and servitude to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam out of love. You know, and not going too in detail with that, but that very essence of having a love and like you can't break that type of love of like just wanting to help. It's like a medicine and healing for the soul. And I say that not just for Muslims but for non-Muslims alike. It's for human. It's our basic human essence to have a kindness and repairing love of our hearts, minds, and body. So that's what the first thing, like just being kind, showing love and compassion to everybody as best as I can. I'm human. We're all human. But I've noticed that there's not that much compassion going around in the world. And if I can be a single person to help one person and show a kindness to them, and they go on to show kindness to someone else, maybe we can do a chain effect. And it's like a domino. I treat you with kindness,
Yeah.
you treat someone else with kindness.
That is always the hope, right? And with this thing that you mentioned, I'm so curious. Where do you think the wanting to help comes from? Because you said that's something you can't take away from a person. Where does that come from?
Right, right. Honestly, I don't know how to phrase it. I feel like for me personally, it just came down to knowing my religion, right? As a Muslim, Alhamdulillah, like that's the first and foremost thing. But this is me, I guess, discovering my faith even more from that young age of understanding who this man was back in the time of the Prophet ﷺ. Historically, what was his character like? Where did my name come from? Like what does this name mean to me? You know? So that's the essence of, I guess, what changed me from a younger age, and I've tried to live by ever since. And that's the first thing. And the second thing, I guess, because I guess we're in the time of the month of Ramadan, that is unreplaceable. Like it's a very beautiful moment where I guess it's like a cleanser. Like you cleanse your mind, your heart, your body, your soul of everything, and it's like a reset. Like what are your priorities in life? For not for not like your education, not your career, not for your anything else. What is your personal priorities in life? What do you want to build? What do you want to correct? What do you want to let go? It's like a 1 month of a reset. Like, what is there? What's the point to life for yourself? Right? And yes, it's a religious month, but at the same time, I find it if you were to remove the aspect of religion from it and you focus on the actual core values of it, I think these are the main questions. Like, what do you want? What are you trying to accomplish? What do you want to let go? What are some things that you can do to better yourself? These are just the basic questions to help reform your character and your personality. So I think
Yeah.
that's something I look forward to I guess drive me forward.
What you were saying reminded me of something I'd heard. I don't know the full verity of it, but I had heard that in Ramadan, what you fear most is locked up, and what
It
you
is.
want most is yours for the taking. And I thought that was so interesting. Do you ever feel that? Like when you're in the month? Because one of the things I think about is the collective unconscious, right? And like when a bunch of Muslims get together, like, oh yeah, like I'm feeling it. I'm feeling the mood of Ramadan. Do you feel that mood? Do you feel like your fears are
I'm
gone and that your hopes are high?
When you said that, I got like warm, like I got like shivers and warmth right now because that is the very essence of it, that specific phrase. Whatever you fear the most is locked away and it's hidden, but whatever you desire the most is open and there for the taking. So
Yeah.
that concept that concept paired with being around a bunch of Muslims or being around a group of friends of good people, good character, right? Not necessarily Muslim, but people with good character, good aspirations, good motivation, good personality, everything like everything positive about them comes out in this time. And it's for me, I'm shocked. It's not just Muslims. I've experienced this even with non-Muslim people I grew up with, like they feel it too, which is shocking because I was always under the assumption that Muslims only feel this, but in reality, it's like regardless of your faith, if you're around a group of people, you're going to feel something in unison. Like you're going to feel it together. So
Yeah.
that's amazing for me, actually. I love that.
Yeah. And another thing that I was thinking about as you were mentioning these things is if I'm not mistaken, Ramadan, like the Arabic, if you dissect the roots, it means to like when you burn gold and how burning the gold cleanses it of the impurities. And I love mythology, and one of the mythological creatures out there is the phoenix. And the phoenix burns and it dies, it turns into ash, only to rise again. That's kind of what Ramadan is, eh? It's like the burning
Yeah.
of the self to come about again,
Yes,
in
it
some
actually is.
sense. Yeah.
Hmm.
Do you feel like this Ramadan has, I know it's only been 10 days, but in these 10 days, has it left you with something unforgettable?
These 10 days, yes, it has actually. The beauty of Ramadan for me is every 10 days, right? It's 30 days. Each 10 days holds something special. So I don't know I forgot all of the exact specifics of it, but for me, when this month came, I was looking forward to it, right? So the first 10 days is when you are super excited and you're out to have enjoy the month. You're trying to increase in your spirituality. You're trying to increase in your character, your good behavior, your good traits. You're trying to treat people with kindness. You're trying to bring people together. So the first 10 days, I say, have brought me some of the best memories I've made this year alone. I know
Wow.
there have been a few special nights with my cousins, with some friends. We would go out to some lectures, we'd go out to get some food, but we'd always have some sort of discussion, some enlightening
Mm.
discussion, some light but enlightening at the same time. And it was just a eye opener, I guess, because the funny thing is we've heard some of these discussions before in January, February last year, but they didn't, I guess, hit as hard as I guess these ones. and the
Mm,
content was almost the same as before. So I guess my favorite part about Ramadan these last 10 days were just the memories we made and the things
yeah.
I've been able to learn from them.
Yeah.
So yeah,
There was that event at Bear Creek a few days ago, and I wasn't really feeling it, to be honest with you. But then when I went down and I sat down and I started paying attention to what the guy was saying, I was like, wow, it hits. You're right, it hits in a different way. Could have been the same talk outside the month of Ramadan, but it's like because it was in Ramadan, it had a different effect. It's
right.
interesting. One of the things I liked about what he said actually, um, which can be said kind of about you in this case, he was talking about um how Muslims can be identified by the way that they dress. And you have decided to wear this. I'm curious, what's the intention behind that?
I was at that lecture as well, and alhamdulillah, I've been dressing like this since the start of Ramadan, and I feel more in my shell, if I will. Like this is what makes me comfortable in my own house. I'm wearing, I guess, pants and a t-shirt, but this to me makes me comfortable and I guess motivated to go out and complete my religious tasks and stuff, and just it increases my spirituality in a way. So I mean, as I said, I guess we before we started, I actually came and I prayed Zuhr. So I prayed Salah and I came to this podcast. Alhamdulillah. That's so for me, this is just a motivation, I guess. And it kind of distinguishes me as a Muslim, like he said. So you're
Yeah,
recognizable by the. I wasn't really thinking much about it. I was like, do I look professional? Should I change this and that? I asked you, should I remove my hat? And I was like, oh, so I was like, it's fine. I'll just wear it. We'll go with it.
yeah,
This is me being me. And
it's
that's the key
cool.
aspect. Your podcast
Sorry.
is
Could you repeat that again? Yeah,
yeah. So
sorry.
you said yeah, my bad. So you said just be yourself, right? So I'm just being me in this time of month on a
Yeah.
podcast with you that you've invited me to, and I appreciate it. So yeah,
Yeah, no, I appreciate it too. It's very cool. And it's making me think about how the clothes a person wears definitely does something to their mentality. It definitely does. And I've noticed like I started dressing up a little more for these again. And it has changed my way of speaking to people as well. Because now it's like I've taken the actions to be a bit more professional, so to speak. And I imagine like the way you're dressed when you go out to pray, you said motivation. Like that word hits hard. I imagine it gives you that motivation. Like, oh, I'm dressed for this occasion to pray or to go to this event or whatever. Yeah.
yes.
Have you
It's
ever
like they
noticed a
say,
difference when you're wearing like a pant shirt versus that? But sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
you're good, you're good. Yeah, you're right, actually. I mean, like they say, if you dress for a meeting and like you have $1 million deal coming in and you're dressed to like impress and like dressed to give a good PowerPoint, then you're most likely going to do well with it just because you're dressed for it and you have that confidence. The way you dress gives you a confidence. It boosts your morale, right? If you look good and you feel good in what you're wearing, then you should be able to go out and accomplish good things. You're going to feel more confident going out and doing the tasks that you want to go out and do. So, like you said, and you asked me, when the way I dress and I go pray, do I really feel motivated? Yeah, the answer is yes. I feel like I'm
Yeah.
more motivated to dial in what I'm actually praying for and what I'm asking God for. So that's I guess a bigger reason for me to dress this way. And honestly, I think even outside of this month, I would go and dress maybe this way or another way to go pray. But at the end of the day, I think past dressing the way you want to dress to and how you dress to go pray and do any other things, it's up in your head. It's in the mental, right? If you have to really like sit down and think over things that you're about to go and do. You know, if you don't think through things and you don't plan, right? Planning is essential in life. You can't just be like, oh, I'm gonna dress this way and go out and do something, or I'm gonna take a test without preparing, right? You have to plan for these things. So that's the bigger part. So I think it's to go out and accomplish something, it's a collection of things, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I always loved experimenting with style, but like I used to do that a lot. Now, not so much, but I have noticed that over the years, no matter how many times I put on pajamas to go to like a Walmart, I'm still not as confident. Like like I could do it and it's fine, but it's just not the same thing as like if I'm just wearing proper clothes. Yeah, it's just a really random thought that came into my head.
Yeah, I mean, I have those moments too. It's like, oh, I'm going to school. Do I look good or something, right? But I'm like, what am I going to school for? Am I going to, I guess, impress people? Am I going to get a good grade? What is the reason? What is my purpose to going out and going to school? I have to go to class. Well, what am I going to do in class? Am I just going to sit there? No, I'm going to have to plan out what I'm doing in class. Okay, what's the
Yes.
content of the lecture? So dressing is one thing, but I feel like there's bigger things than just dressing to prepare yourself in life. And that goes for everything. That goes for whether it be religious, business, education, family. There's a lot, everything needs planning. Everything needs some foundation of direction, steps. It just needs that. That's the basic foundation of accomplishing things.
Does planning come with fear?
Yeah, it does. It really does. Um, I've been told by people before that, oh, you shouldn't fear anything because if you do, then you probably have less chances of accomplishing something. I'm like, when I hear that, I'm like, well, hold on. You don't you don't accomplish everything on the first try. Now, if you were to able to accomplish everything on the first try, then we would be perfect people. We would not make any mistakes. So it's the mistakes that make us, right? At the same time. But also you have to plan. So when you plan with fear in mind and you accommodate for it, okay, what if I don't accomplish this today? What is my contingency for my failure if I were to fail in this? You know, just having the plan, a backup plan for whatever the outcome may be, just means that you're observant, you're accepting, you're confident. If you're able to take into account that the fear may lead you to failing or not accomplishing something, then you're confident. Because confidence does not just come from victories and winning and accomplishing things, but it also comes from understanding and recognizing that, hey, there's a potential failure from this plan, or I may not accomplish something, but what will I do in case this happens? That's real confidence, in my opinion.
That's prominent, what you just said. I really like that there. That's deep. That goes very hard. Yeah. I was telling one of my friends the other day, he had taken a risk, a big risk. And I said to him, you know, it didn't work out for him, but I was like, I'm still proud of you that you took the risk. I admire that because taking the risk means either you win everything and more, or you lose everything and hit the ground. And it's
Right.
really like a flipping the coin type thing. You really don't know the guarantee. So it's just so admirable to take the risk.
But at the same time, we as humans, we're selective in what we want to be risking when it comes to like whatever comes in our life and whatever we're trying to go out and accomplish. So that's mental aspect of being selective in what you're trying to go out and accomplish out of fear with the fear accounting for the fear. That selectiveness is, I guess, a barrier for most people, and it's different for everybody. So I guess some people may be like, oh, I don't want to skydive because the risks of skydiving, right? The enjoyment of skydiving does now outweigh the risk of, I guess a parachute not opening or something. But if I've learned and I've realized, not just with myself, but with other people around me, the risks that people take to accomplish their tasks and accomplish their goals in life, they make some of the most beautiful memories.
Explain
And
that.
so I guess, heard from a friend of mine. He was like, this was during COVID, right? We were young. He wanted to invest, right? He wanted to get into stocks. He wanted to get into some form of business and investing. And for him, he was hesitant on the risks, right? Because he had barely anything to his name, right? He had a few $1,000s, right? At a young age that he didn't want to lose because he was saving up for college. And this was, mind you, 11th grade almost, or early 11th grade. And we were sitting down and talking about it. And he was for days, he would just talk about it. He's like, yeah, I'm just thinking about it. If I do this, I may lose all of it. If I mess up in this and like just that aspect of it, he was really hesitant and because of the fear of investing and losing all of it. And I don't know, out of nowhere, it was 8 a.m. We were in a Zoom call ready to go into online class, and we're in the waiting room, and our teacher had not came. He had the mentality like, all right, you know what? Forget all of this. I've done enough calculating. I'm gonna do it because if I don't do it, I don't know what will happen. So he was like, he took the risk. He went for it, and from that, yes, he had a little bit of failure from it. He lost a little bit of money, but he also made money. So for him, what he really wanted was the experience. He wanted to create that memory. It was like I went out and did something that could have either made me or broken me. In this term, I
Yes.
guess even, but in this situation, I think he broke even. But that experience was like I would not have. He did not stop talking about it for the next month. That was the funniest part for me. He just kept talking and talking about it. I was like, wow. So he didn't make money. He didn't lose money, and he took a big risk. But that memory that he has from doing it basically brought him a smile for a month. It brought him joy. It brought him true happiness. Like I actually saw this man laugh and having fun with the whole thing the entire time. When someone would ask him, he would go into some detail and like be very intricate with the with labeling certain things. And if you didn't catch on once, he would go all the way back to the beginning and restart. So that level of like dedication and
Yeah.
fulfillment from it was just so vivid and just it was whole, it was authentic, it was real. So I was like, wow, okay, if that can happen from just I guess investing money, that can happen for me in anything I do, whether it be I guess learning my religion, going out of my way to get a job, even basic things, doing chores. Like I guess there was an admiral, I believe. He was I think the I forgot what they call him, but he was a chancellor at UT Austin, if I'm not mistaken, or he was giving a talk at UT Austin a long time ago, and he said that when he was in the Navy SEALs program, basically, he grew up with a strict discipline of doing the basic things of making his bed in the morning at 4 in the morning, and when he left the service, he kept doing that. And for him, he's like, regardless, rain or shine, success or failure, I would come home to a made bed, and when I came home to that, I got a joy from it. Like I accomplished something, and it was a hope, whether it was small or big, to go out and do something else the next day, to try again, perhaps. So that's the beauty of, I guess, taking risks, trying, and just being yourself, not letting other people really influence what you have going on in your life, but you having the conviction and confidence, right? And the reminders of smaller accomplishments to go out and try out those bigger things.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing all of that. I really enjoyed those things that you mentioned, especially that thing that your friend said. If I don't do it, I don't know what will happen. I just think that's so cool. That's literally just life. I know it sounds very corny to say that, but that's what it is. If I don't
In
do it, I don't
essence,
know what will happen. And that's why I really enjoy in my life. I try to take a lot of like embarrassing risks, but they don't have to be gigantic, but like small things. And one of my cousins, he was embarrassed about doing something, and I said, "Well, go do it because being embarrassed once, like it builds up, it snowballs. Then you're able to do other things that might make you feel embarrassed, but it builds you up in a way." And I think in that sense, discipline can also play a role. Discipline and risk. That's a connection that I'm curious to explore. Because the way that I treat risks in my life, I feel like they echo some bit of discipline about them. Like, oh, I'm doing this not for this moment right now, even if I lose this moment, but so that this stands as something for me in the future. Like, oh yeah, I did do that, even if it did work out for me, or if it didn't. And it just builds up and it builds up and it builds up.
I like that. That's good. That's really good. Honestly, that's a motivation. That's another form of motivation. Having that discipline, taking risks. Um, but yeah,
I was
I wanted to
curious if
ask
you,
you.
yeah, go ahead.
I wanted to ask you when the year starts. How do you prepare for the next month? You know, I know this is the month of Ramadan, but I'm just saying, like, how do you prepare for your months? Like, and plan it out accordingly. Like, what? Because to plan, and I've always seen you're always writing something, you're always taking notes, you're always preparing for something. And you seem like you're prepared for everything, but like, it's just funny. I love seeing it, and it motivated me, I guess, write things out and just start taking notes again, and just being observant of in my own life of the things that I come across. But I wanted to ask you, is like, how do you, I guess, plan for the next day? Like, what do you do, I guess, because that's a form of discipline, to plan and like just prepare. How do you do that?
It's gonna sound a bit strange, but I don't think I plan that much, to be honest with you. Like you're talking about months. I woke up
Just
yesterday,
like
it's like,
in,
yeah, I woke up
like
yesterday,
your
I was
month.
like, yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say like your month to month, like how like of some things that are gonna happen in the next month, or like you plan a little bit down the line, like. And obviously, the unforeseen things happen. Like you have different things pop in. You might have to move things around in your schedule. Like, how do you deal with that? Not like in the scheduling past aspect of it, but like how do you discipline yourself to go out and I guess try to accomplish all of these things? Like what is it that you use to push yourself to accomplish them?
There's something I heard Mike Tyson say one time, which was he was talking about how he loves ice cream, and I love ice cream. But he's like, when he had to train, he had to give up ice cream, of course. But what he would tell himself is, okay, I'm giving up ice cream for like 6 months, for 5 months. That's all I'm doing. I'm not doing it for life. I'm just giving it up for this appointed period of time. And that allows him to concentrate on, oh, let me work out, let me train. So when I heard that from him, I applied that mode of thinking to certain things in my life where there's a lot of things that I'm attracted to. There's a lot of things that I love to go out and pursue. But I say to myself, okay, for this period of time, let me just give that up and let me focus on one thing. Let me focus on one thing. And when I find myself focusing on that one thing, it allows me to come back to that thing that I originally loved and be more intentional with it. So I guess maybe that's some bit of the answer. But yeah, frankly, I don't really plan anything. And at least not that I can consciously think of. It's more like following my muse in a way. And I know that sounds cliche, but it's true. It's like whatever I'm drawn, like you mentioned observant, right? I think that's what observance is for me. Is it's just like seeing that thing that calls to me in the moment and just like focusing on that. And that allows me to it somehow brings me to where I am.
It's a good way of putting it. I love it.
I
I
hope
will.
so. Yeah. Sometimes, you say like what I enjoy about conversations like these is again, nothing is scripted, right? And so what it is like when I'm talking to you, honest, it's like I'll say something, you'll say something, and I have to think about it as I speak to you because it's not like it was something I planned to put out there. It's like I'm learning as I speak, and I imagine you are as well, right? It's an interesting thing, the conversation.
Course. And I feel like conversing, and not just you, but anyone in general from day to day. And what's funny is like I may speak to you 5 minutes ago, and like 10 minutes later I'll speak to you about something else. Like the way that our conversations change dramatically in such a short amount
Yeah.
of time, there's so much to extract from them. You know,
Yes.
I feel like something we lack in today's time, right? When we go out and have a conversation with someone, even if it's as small as like asking, "How are you?" right? And getting a little bit of information about how someone's day may have went. There's some lesson and wisdom to take away from it. There's always a wisdom, there's always a lesson to take away from it. Regardless of whether it's a positive one, a negative one, an eye-opening one, it doesn't matter. There's something to extract from any form of conversation. What in That's the beauty of conversing with other people because it's two people, like-minded, unlike-minded, coming together, discussing something, whether they agree on something, they disagree on something, or they agree to disagree, you
There
know?
you go.
So they come and you can always extract something from it. Like from this, I'll be able to extract so much. I'm just have to sit down and be like, okay, what did we talk about? Obviously, I'm not recording it,
Yes.
but I have to go back. I'm gonna sit down and probably write this down most likely because I have that much free time. I'm joking. No, I have to study for an exam too, but that's the beauty of it. It's like something that can give you food for thought. Like afterwards, like if you're just walking or going about doing something. Oh, I had that conversation with Omar the other day. Like, what did we talk about? Oh, we talked about discipline. We talked about what it means to be focused. What is the beauty of taking risks? Like these are things that we can. And even though we may have discussed these with other people, the beauty of it is there's always something to learn from it, like I've said and I've reiterated multiple times. But that's what I love about conversing with people.
Yes. And I was actually just gonna say something very similar to what you have mentioned. I think you're perhaps the one person off the top of my mind that I can think of where literally every conversation I've had with you, I feel like I'm a different person and you're a different person. Like literally. It's like, oh my God, the sort of things we're talking about, they change vastly. It's like, damn, it's any one conversation between you and me, we're not the same people. Like the next one is for
And you know
sure a
what's
different one.
and you know what's funny is I think that same day where I was leaving campus and you were heading in and we talked, we were like, oh my God. Like I actually facepalmed myself, like, wow, that's crazy. Because you told me something I've never heard of in my life. It was like you were mentioning a quote, and I don't remember off the top of my head what the quote was. I was like, wow, really? He said that? It's like I did not even know that myself. So it's like those tiny aha moments. You're like, oh my God, like that's extracting something and like it sticks with you. I mean, obviously, not this one. I forgot the content of it, but it's some memories that we build. And then it's always something good to, and it makes me happy to know that I'm able to extract something, or I'm able to enjoy a small amount of time with someone and able to converse with them in a healthy manner. So the next time I look forward to when I see them, I look forward to what that conversation entails to me and what it brings to me. And
Yeah,
what can I bring?
absolutely.
It's like
Absolutely.
it's like a book. I'll say that much, right? Like a sequel. Every conversation. It's like a
Yeah.
short. So we
And
have a short moment.
another interesting thing to add to that is we are different people, I think, when we speak every time. But as you said, like the energy that I feel from you is still the same good energy. It's like, oh wow, this is so cool. Like we're different people, but the energy is still something you recognize, something you want to come back to. It's cool. Yeah. So this is gonna end in a bit. We'll end it in like another
Okay.
session. So let's do that. You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. Okay.
With pride and honor. We probably lost a bit of content right there, but for the sake of the recording, I'll repeat it. So, Omar, you want to repeat the question? We'll start from there. So,
Well, all I was gonna say was, you came in blazing with confidence, and I admire
I,
that. I'm impressed.
I try my best to be confident with everything I do. That's the beauty of, I guess, trying new things. This is the first for me, and as you can see, I've been probably smiley the whole podcast, the whole episode, and it's something new. I was like, wow, this is something I've always wanted to try to do myself, but like, to be invited, it's a very great honor and respect, to be recognized by someone who already has something, has established something, established a brand or a recording system, this of their own, and to be recognized enough to be brought upon it and invited, that's like wow. Like I'm gonna be up on the next episode of Omar Fareed's podcast. That's like amazing. So I was like, it's something new. Let's try it. Let's see how it goes. And yeah, that confidence is key. You have to push yourself. It's not always going to be there. You have to push yourself in the right mentality to go and get it.
Yeah. Well, first of all, man, thank you so much for those kind words. I don't think I'm on that level, but I really appreciate that you would say something like that. I'm honored to have you on. As I said in the beginning, this has been in the oven for a long time, man. You know,
It
this
really
me and you having this episode, we've been waiting to have this happen for a while. But it's
so,
like the Halim, you know, literally the
yeah,
best Halim. It takes its time to be made. And so I'm really happy that we made this happen. Um,
likewise. See that the circumstances prevailed and I got a little bit better. So
yeah, I feel like there's a lot of guests where we talk about having it like the episode, and then it doesn't happen until like months later. And what I always say to these people is, this is the right time to do it. You know, this is the right time. Like wherever you're at in life right now, wherever I'm at in life right now, it brings us together. We collide, and it's like this is the conversation that was meant to happen. Like one thing I was writing down the other day was every conversation has a destiny. As to this one, I don't know what the destiny of this conversation is, but whoever hears it, I really hope that they extract the gems that they can from it. You know, it's meant for their
like,
ears, you know?
like
Yeah.
beauty of it is
Hmm.
you have your podcast. It's open to anybody. It's accessible to anybody and everybody. So for all I know, someone probably on the opposite side of the world may hear it, and they may be able to extract something from it. And that's something I hope happens, not just for myself, but for you as well, and all your previous episodes and episodes to come. Because the way knowledge,
Inshallah.
inshallah, the way knowledge and education is shared is if the audience or the person is in first off, the person is out there seeking it. They're trying to get some form of knowledge that they can't get. It's that yearning for knowledge that their heart and mind want. So that's number one. Number two, the fact that it's so accessible these days, you can learn anything from anybody. And I hope that's whoever the audience of this podcast episode may be, and podcast in general. I hope they're able to extract something from this and implement it in their lives. And hopefully it makes them a better person, a stronger person, and more resilient with whatever's to come in their own life.
Yes. And I'm glad you mentioned this because it reminds me of something that I heard from Noman Ali Khan. He was talking about the story of Yusuf, and he was saying how um, Yusuf alayhi salam, the prophet Joseph, he didn't have like a proper schooling, a proper education. He didn't get that, but he was still he went on to become the one of the most powerful men in Egypt. How did this happen? And so Noman Ali Khan explained that when he was a servant in the house of the minister of Egypt, he was in his vicinity. So, you know, while he's sweeping or, you know, working in the stables, he can hear the conversations of his
Right.
master. And his master is one of the most powerful men in Egypt. So, being so close to that, he was able to learn what he needed to learn. And then, you know, he goes on to become one of the most powerful men in Egypt himself. So I thought that was so fascinating because it's like what you just said. We live in a time where you can learn almost anything from anyone.
Exactly.
The
And that's the
internet
beauty.
places you at their vicinity. Yeah.
That is the beauty. But I feel like at the same time, nothing can be in-person learning. That personal connection you can build with the person teaching or having a conversation with, right? I feel like nothing can ever beat that. Not even AI, not even not even ChatGPT. Nothing of AI will ever be able to compare to that and beat that in time. So, but that's the beauty of education and knowledge and conversations. It comes down to having conversations. I feel like that's it. Even a lecture is a conversation. It's a long podcast.
Even a
That's what it is.
lecture is a conversation. I like that. And why do you say that?
While you're not, while you may not be giving a response to everything a lecturer is saying, you're taking notes down. You're observing what he's saying. You're observing the hand gestures they may be doing, the diagrams they're presenting. You're very observant. And in a conversation, you're equally observant with the person that's speaking. Even if you don't get a chance to speak in that time frame, but you're observing, you're extracting, you're memorizing, and you may go down there or you're writing it down somewhere. So a lecture is is a conversation in the same way because it's not the actual speech aspect of it that makes it a conversation. Like I said, it's the extraction of the gems, of the knowledge, the education from all of it is what you actually are getting from a conversation. That's what makes a
Yeah.
conversation a conversation.
Yeah. I like that you say that. Now it kind of changes the way that I've perceived the lectures I've seen from different people.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, in a way, I was just talking to them, but they didn't hear anything I said, huh? Something like that.
Right.
Yeah. And it's a fascinating thing for sure. And I know that one thing that you really admire about these episodes, and I'm very grateful for that, is the connectivity. And so I do want to connect it back to that idea in the beginning of how, God forbid, but when catastrophe comes to you, perhaps all it's saying is you are ready. And I think conversations like these, experiences like these, risks, all of these things come together to make you ready. It's it is what feeds your soul. It's
Exactly.
the
And
Halim.
like it's pretty good Halim. I love it.
Yeah,
Love it.
yeah,
So what I will say is, like you said, I mean, not necessarily catastrophe, but any event that's saying that's preparing is like, hey, you are ready for the next step in life, right? And the risks that you take in those next steps of life that you take, I'm feeling that right now. This is my first time on a podcast. As I said earlier, um, I'm enjoying it. I was nervous. You said I came in with confidence. I came in with my knees shaking. My laptop was like all over the place. You'll probably see it in the recording, but yeah, it was an experience. I came in with the understanding it's like this is a first for me. I have to. I've seen it before. It's gonna be a first for me to participate in and partake. And I just gotta understand. It's like okay, so, you remember I was asking like, so how does it go? How does your podcast go? And I asked you twice, and he said the same thing: candid, open conversation. Nothing is what's it called? Prepared. Nothing is in advance. It's just a one take. It's like all right. And in my head, I was like, I woke up to it, I was like, one take. Okay, let's see how this goes. Because I got really nervous. I was like, nah, we'll see how it goes. Because everyone else who's been on it has enjoyed it. I've seen them having fun. It's like, all right, let's go. Open mind. Let's see what it brings to me. What can I learn from my good old brother, Omer? Let's see what he brings to me today. Because every time we've talked, like I said, I've always extracted something from you. Some form of wisdom, whether it's small or large, doesn't really have, doesn't matter. It's something new. And I've somehow, alhamdulillah, been able to implement it in my life. So yeah, this was an experience and I enjoyed it very much. I was just
yes.
nervous, but now I'm smiling. I have that confidence, so alhamdulillah for that.
I'm impressed. You were very bold. And again, thank you for the kind words. Something that you had mentioned, it made me think of something. Uh, Last week there was like a debate on campus, right? Salvation, Muslims, Christians. And when we left the event, I asked my sister, like, what do you think of these events? Do they really make a difference? Does it really matter? And what she said to me was, I think the people that attend are too biased anyways. And I felt that. I really felt that. Um, and so I was thinking, well, who really does benefit then? If you just show up to cheer on for your side and boo for the other, or maybe not necessarily boo, but if you only come to cheer for your side, are you learning anything? And perhaps you are, but I don't, perhaps you're not. I don't know. But the point I'm trying to get at is I feel like the people that do benefit from things like that are the ones that come in, as you said, just to learn, just open to
Open
learning.
minded.
Yeah, open-minded just to learn. And yeah, that's the hope that these conversations are just to learn. And that's what
Touch
makes
on
it
an
fun.
right, exactly. I'll touch on an experience real briefly. It was a few weeks ago, maybe a month and a half ago. We had, I guess, people were protesting, like strong Christian people were, I guess, were opposing to Muslims and people of different backgrounds. And I saw it happening outside of the library. I was like, it was early morning. It was like not really. It was like almost 1 o'clock. I had class, and I was like, I wonder what's going on because I read it said for me, I'm Muslim, right? And when I see it's like Muslims will go to hell, right? I'm like, well, hold on, okay. I know my faith doesn't say that's about anybody else's faith. Anybody of a different background, we don't say that, right? So I was like, okay, let's see what's happening here. I went and sat in the audience and just to listen in. And I saw a few other Muslim brothers of mine. They were just there. They were conversing with this one specific person who was repeating things. And it was like, let me try at this. Let me try at this with the same mentality of being open to listening to him, right? Because what he's holding is a sign that's attacking, not attacking, but like that's probably the wrong word to use, but it's very hurtful to see something like that. It's like, oh, you're gonna just say that they're gonna go to hell, right? Like, well, let's see what's his point of view on this. Like, where is he coming from? Why is he supporting it? So I went in with the mentality to learn, to understand him, right? I didn't go in there to bash him. I didn't go in there to fight or argue or bicker with anybody because you don't really get anywhere with that. You really don't. And especially in today's climate and time, nobody will be willing to spend time with you and listen at all and give you a chance. So I went there, listened to him, and we had a back and forth. It was very casual, very respectful. I kept it very respectful, kept same tone, no, never got upset. And I feel like I went farther with him in terms of conversation than anybody else that was there with me. Because the other people that were there, they kind of backed off a little bit and they just went back to listening instead of conversing. And me and him, we had a good back and forth, and we exchanged text, we showed text, we showed evidences, and in the end, we came out to agree to disagree. That's what we came out to be. And at the end, I was like, well, what's going to differentiate me from someone who came to argue and bicker with him versus me who came to understand him, understand his point of view with respect? What is something I can do to seal the deal on that, to leave a lasting impression on him and memory that I'm not there to harm. We're not all the same. Like, everyone has a different motivation, a different agenda, a different task, accomplishment. I only simply went there to learn what is the background of this group, of this person specifically who I conversed with, and what can I do to show him a different avenue, to show him a different avenue of understanding. That's
I like that
exactly
word.
avenue is a very beautiful word. So that's what I did. And at the very end of it, I stuck my hand out and I was like, hey, my name is Anas. It was nice conversing with you, and God bless you, and I hope you have a wonderful day, right? And then his response was, oh, I don't shake hands with a Muslim. And then what I did, I simply took my hand, put it to my chest. I said, God bless you, have a wonderful day. I'll be praying for you, my brother. That's all I said. That's all I had to say. And you know what's funny is he smiled a little bit. Someone who was like stone cold, like arguing, yelling at the top of his lungs with other people and arguing. And he cracked a small smile. I was like, close. That's all I needed. That's all I needed. I just needed to show him that someone from a different background, regardless of religion, race, whatever it may be, have been he was protesting against, because there was a variety of things he was talking about. But I just wanted and needed to show him that there is still love, compassion, and respect out there. That's it.
I
And
love
when he
that.
smiled, I accomplished what I wanted to do, and that put a bigger smile on my face. So
Yeah.
alhamdulillah, beauty.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that story, man. I like that. That's the word that's coming to my mind is delicate but beautiful. It's like a delicate but beautiful moment. That's really cool.
I feel like most of my moments are delicate, especially in conversation, because you know it does stem from my religious understanding. When you're conversing with someone, you have to have a level of respect, right? A level of mannerisms when you're talking with someone, and it goes for everybody, right? Whether not just for myself, but for everybody. If you don't have a respect for whatever knowledge, false or true, from someone, then you will never be able to go out and learn. You really won't, because, like you said, bias. Your sister went to the event last week with the debate between Christians and Muslim, and she thought it was really biased. That's another thing. So being open minded, removing your own self bias, and just being there for the sake of listening and learning. Because if you're able to listen, then you can learn. And once you learn, you can apply what you learn. You can well rethink or reanalyze what you've learned, and you can compare it with whatever else you collect or learn and understand. And that's what you use to grow your personality, grow your character, grow your own mentality, and mature.
Yeah. And there's power and beauty into that as well, because when you can speak the lingo of someone else, you can connect with them even more. And it's not
Of
like you
course,
necessarily have to believe what they believe, but you speak the lingo and now you can like expand, just the relationship that you have as a human being. I think it's
of
a very
course.
cool thing. Yeah.
I feel like in today's time in society, especially where we live, people become hyper polarized in their beliefs, and that builds a stronger level of bias that people than what we normally have, and that's what disrupts our ability to have conversation. That's my personal belief, and I do not want to add to that. Rather, I want to maintain myself as someone who's open-minded and willing to learn. So I just go out whenever the opportunity presents itself and these conversations happen. Like you said, I take my experiences and try to connect with them and understand
Yeah.
where they're coming from.
And you said your name is Anas, and you were relating the story of Anas ibn Malik. Um, I think radiallahu an, right? Is that what you would call him? Yeah. Uh, I think learning is a service. I think learning is wanting to help people. I think learning
Yes,
is the love of wanting to help people. I think that's very
it is.
cool.
It is.
But
And I feel like
Anas,
for
yeah,
real quick, I want to just tie it up from my side, but I think for
of
you and I,
course.
these conversations will continue to happen, inshallah, God willing. And I look forward to them. This was an experience. I loved it. And let's see where the next conversation takes us.
Yeah, I loved it as well. And let's see that, inshallah, man. I'm curious, do you have any closing thoughts? Anything you felt like you wanted to say, but you didn't get a chance to, or something on your mind that you wanted to express?
Closing thoughts. Hmm. Not more so for me, but for whoever the audience may be, is keep an open heart. This society, this world we live in, everyone's hearts have went from this to like closed, right? If you can't keep your heart open, then where do you expect people to have that same level of love for you, you know? Right? It's just gonna live up here. That people will love you is gonna be up here. You want it to be a reality, keep your heart open first. Treat people with the same love, compassion, and respect, whether it's in conversations, whether it's in helping them with the slightest of tasks, even the biggest of things, spending quality time with them. Just be open to them, being more receptive with your heart. That's the key, and that's I think what's slowly going to, slowly, inshallah, but surely will impact our society, our people, and humans as a whole into being more loving and returning to a greater state of humanity than what we are right now.
Yes, and that may take time to manifest, but there's still
Yep.
truth in that. And I love that
Yep.
you mentioned that. Thank you for sharing that, man. But yeah, I'm very happy that you were here. Very excited we made it happen. I
Likewise,
enjoyed
I'm
this. It was good. Um,
was
yeah, it was beautiful, man. So thanks, Sanos, for being here. I
thank
applaud
you,
you,
Umar, for
man. You're a very cool guy, you know? I always love seeing you. Sorry, your voice
thank you
got
for
cut out.
having me.
Okay. Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
said thank you for having me. Wonderful guy, and I look forward to our next conversation for real.
Yeah, yeah, inshallah, man. But I suppose until next time, eh? You take care, my friend.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.